We've got to make sure that the automobiles are not so easy to steal so that they're a tempting, attractive nuisance for young people. And, right now we are investigating 2 major automakers because their cars are dramatically too easy to steal for young people.
Maybe you're sitting there saying to yourself right now, who is that wingnut on the television set? What did they find, some college sociology professor? But that's where you would be wrong. That gentleman you just saw is an attorney general. He is the attorney general for the state of Minnesota. That is the state of the law profession in this country. Joining me now, a good one, and Lord knows we are short on those, the AG for the great state of West Virginia, Patrick Morrissey, soon to be governor, I believe, in the state of West Virginia. Okay, do you sit back ever and watch some of your colleagues, if we're even going to call on them across the country, and just cry for the state of the legal profession in this country?
It's unbelievable. I mean, the woke left has penetrated all forms of our society. And when I start hearing things like that, it's deeply disturbing. But that's why you have to have a number of people stepping up and fighting back against these crazy woke policies. Man, let's think about this for a moment. You're saying that there's a product and that product goes through, it's meeting a lot of its standards, but it's not just that there are allegations about some defect, right, or that they lied to the public. They're actually wanting to penalize someone for the criminal behavior of another individual. So, people like to draw analogies all the time, but this is really going further than I've ever seen anyone go before. And look, we try to hold people accountable on the basis of violation of the laws, but to say that when you have someone who's committing a crime like this, that then the manufacturer of the car should be held responsible, I think seems to be a bit absurd.
Where does that leave us economically in this country with the business environment being so hostile in blue areas? And then you have states like West Virginia where it's getting better. It's going to turn these blue states into wastelands. And I'm not a big fan of blue states, but I don't want that either. Is it not just going to drive all business into your waiting arms?
Well, look, I do hope that businesses come to West Virginia, and I want people to know that they're going to be treated fairly. They're going to be treated in a manner consistent with the Constitution and the rule of law. And West Virginia is actually on the rise. I think we have a lot of potential. But I do think we have a challenge in this country, and we need leaders to step up and oppose these woke policies, this DEI. I'm seeing it creeping in every single day. You have folks on the other side who literally want to wipe out the rule of law, and they want to take away the netting, the support fabric, if you will, for our Constitution, and go after our churches, our civic groups, our educational institutions, and they want to guarantee outcomes for particular groups of people. That is wrong. That is inconsistent with our Constitution and our laws, and we need people who are not afraid to say that. And that's why I've been very active in the arena, and I'm not going to get pushed around by any of these folks that are looking for guaranteed outcome or try to treat a particular group a little bit more special than someone else.
You're moving on to be governor, but what role do you see Red State AGs having going forward? Everyone I talk to in the legal profession tells me your job is going to be the vanguard of protecting the free people of this country.
Look, I think that attorneys general play a pivotal role in terms of the separation of powers in our country to make sure that the federal government doesn't run roughshod over states. I think that's a critical position. But I actually think as governor, a governor can help lead a state forward to combine efforts so that an AG can focus and lead on the legal challenges facing a state. And that's very important. A governor can help work with an AG to direct some of those legal efforts, but then also pull together a state's efforts on economic and financial matters, policy, public relations, political, and then the right states can build coalitions of 20 and 25 states together so you can have governors, treasurers, attorneys general, 35 state agencies. All of those combined could lead to the effort to correct this imbalance that you're seeing where the federal government's grown way too big and the woke culture is permeating Washington, D.C., I think the states are the place to be, because if those 25 governors come together and we're able to step up, that could be the fix that we can't see Washington do on its own. And that's part of the reason I decided to run for governor.
The federal government obviously has declared war on energy. I don't have to tell anyone who lives in West Virginia that. They've known that for many, many, many years. Now we have an EPA ruling on tailpipe emissions. Could you talk more about this absurdity and what this does to normal people on the ground?
Yeah, I think that it's a really scary prospect, and Joe Biden has stepped it in again. And this is actually going to be very problematic. I think that if more Americans knew what was going on with the Biden mandatory electric vehicle policy, they would move in droves away from any support for his campaign. And here's basically what they're trying to do. They're looking to do mandated EVs for about 68% of the people by 2032. Now, the recent announcement came back. There may be some delays in terms of the timelines, but they're committed and they're hell-bent to moving in this direction. And here's the problem with that. Imagine that you have a product that some people may like, but is not ready to move from 5 or 6% of the public to 68% in a short period of time. There's no business model for the charging of these cars. Let's start with that, which is kind of an important thing. It doesn't work very well in certain states. Imagine being in West Virginia and the average car is supposed to get up to 200 miles on a charge, but you're in a place like West Virginia that's hilly, or another place, any part of Appalachia or mountainous or hilly areas, and it goes 100 miles. Think about how that won't work. Then go further. At the very time these guys are trying to move everyone to EVs, the Biden administration is trying to eliminate the use of coal-fired power plants and natural gas. None of that works. When you try to dramatically increase demand, you can't then go and cut off supply. If you do that, you start to see massive problems economically. And in West Virginia, that would represent a depression, not a recession, a depression. These are just some of the very many problems with the EV mandate. And it's why my office and others, I've stepped up and I'm helped leading to push back against this utter insanity. And I think if just Americans knew a little bit more about this and the disaster at the border and a couple other issues, I mean, I think Trump's going to win. I actually think he's going to win going away. But these policies are scary. It shows that these guys have no idea what they're doing, and they're actively trying to hurt American consumers.
Could you talk about the action you took with the FBI? This is obviously, sadly, something AGs are going to have to do more and more going forward. The FBI and their DEI hiring policies, what'd you do there?
Absolutely. So just a few weeks ago, we sent a letter to the FBI, which has a large facility in Clarksburg, West Virginia, because we've been hearing more and more about the FBI's effort to advance these so-called DEI policy, diversity and equity and inclusion. And we're worried about it. And here's why. There was properly a Supreme Court decision last year that made it very clear that these racial-based quotas and what Harvard and some other educational institutions were doing were hugely problematic under the Equal Protection Clause of our country. You can't just create these quotas to make up, even if you think you're making up for past wrongs. It's not permissible at all. And having diversity for diversity's sake, or racial quotas just to advance some perceived notions of racial equality, that's not right and it's not permissible. Well, we've been getting a lot of information related to the FBI and their hiring practices, their recruiting practices, and they look to be highly problematic. So we sent a lengthy letter to the FBI asking them questions about their DEI policies, what they mean when they want to be a DEI agency, what they mean when they're trying to what appears to be meeting certain racial or gender quotas. It just seems to be very, very problematic. So I'm getting the word out across West Virginia and the country. If you see any problematic activities on the part of the FBI in their hiring practices, in their recruiting practices, let our office know. We asked the FBI to answer a series of questions about that, but we want individuals to come forward with potential discrimination. Look, we want to live in a colorblind society. We do not want federal agencies to be compounding problems we see with racial or gender quotas. And that's just not the way our country is supposed to work. So if you find information that's problematic about what the FBI, or quite frankly, what any federal agency is doing, call our office, let us know. Call 304-558-2021. Go to wvago.gov and let us know what you're seeing. Step up, be a whistleblower. We want to fix these problems because this woke culture, these DEI policies, they have no place in America, which has an equal protection clause. Whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, you should be all treated the same under the eyes of the law. And AGs and governors are going to make that happen.